Hey guys, back with another voiceover breakdown. I had some good feedback from the last one that I posted on the Darce choke, so I thought I'd take a look at one of my favorite techniques, something that I have had a ton of success with in the gym and in competition, the Japanese necktie. And in my opinion, it's a very underutilized choke, gi and no gi. It's equally as effective, I think, because it has a few features that you don't really need a deep choking arm to pull this off. So sometimes in the gi that can get in the way of using a Darce, for example. But I find with this, I don't need a deep grip. I just need to get to sort of this 3/4 Nelson, and I can pull this off just as effectively gi and no gi. So let's look at some of these slides and kind of break down a bit more what's going on. So basically in this first slide, like anything, this is an attack I'm going to look for from the front headlock position. Okay, so this is when my opponents snap down, and I like to get to this 3/4 Nelson position here, which is a wrestling hold, and in wrestling it's designed largely to roll their opponent using neck pressure to pin their shoulder blades to the mat. But in jiu-jitsu, we often use this actually to put pressure on the neck and roll our opponent onto their side in order to attack sort of the traditional Darce choke. And I have a video posted of that if you want to check that out. I run through the details there. So this is a technique that I actually like to pair really well with the Darce choke because it depends on what my opponent does that will dictate sort of what I do attack-wise. But basically, so in order to achieve this 3/4 Nelson, I need to lace my bottom left arm through his arm and under his neck. So this is an arm in choke. It's not just an attack on the neck. I need his arm trapped in here in order to pull this off effectively. So I've got that left arm laced underneath, and I'm clasping my hands together here into what's called a gable grip. It's a wrestling term meaning that I'm not linking my fingers together. It's a palm-on-palm grip. The left hand that's laced under is palm up. The right arm that's on top is palm down. And again, key to this position is to have the blade of that forearm, the right arm, on the back of their neck and head, because I can use that to basically crunch their chin to their chest, and that creates the pressure that is going to help roll your opponent, okay? So I'm looking for this 3/4 Nelson. I've got my gable grip, and I'm going to pull my elbows in nice and tight. One thing about this gable, this 3/4 Nelson is I don't want my right elbow to flare too far away from my body here. I want to keep it tight because the further it slides away from his head, the weaker the position gets, okay? So we've got everything set up here with our grips, and we'll keep moving on here. So basically what I look to do here is take advantage of a common reaction, okay? So in this slide I say, force a dilemma to open their base. So what do I mean by that? Well, in order to effectively use the Japanese necktie, I have to step over my opponent's near side leg. And that can be really hard to do if they're sitting on their heels and they're turtled up, okay? So I'm going to try to threaten the Darce choke first, meaning I'm threatening to try to put them onto their side. But a lot of people, better grapplers, they know that's coming, and so what they'll do is they'll base out to prevent them from being rolled, okay? They'll widen their elbows out like my opponent is here, and they'll kind of come off their heels a little bit to sort of just dig in and get more difficult to move, and that's exactly what I'm looking for here, okay? So I force this dilemma. I either roll you onto your side and attack the Darce, or you defend, and now I have my opening for the Japanese necktie. Okay, so that's what I'm basically talking about here, is causing a reaction. Okay, like a lot of techniques in jiu-jitsu, they're hard to pull off on a very defensive opponent. So we need to create movement in order to create opportunities to attack. Okay, so this next slide is pretty simple. I'm just talking about leg drive. Whether it's the Darce or the Japanese necktie, I like to drive off my back foot to really combine the leverage with my arms so that I can really get enough power to move my opponent. And that's really all I'm doing here. But as we move to the next slide, where I say capture the leg, putting our leg up here is an advantage because it puts us in position to step over the near side leg once our opponent sort of bases or their weight comes off their heels. So, as I say in the slide, it's critical that you do this. You have to have this leg trapped in order to finish this choke. Okay, I'll get into why in a minute, but just keep in mind that you shouldn't be proceeding with this choke unless you get that leg trapped. So I like to step over nice and deep here, okay, and really make sure that I have control. And once I've got that, I'm keeping the vice grip the same. My arms have not moved. I'm just going to fall onto my side now. And so what I say here is keep the shoulder blades off the mat. Pretty straightforward, but that applies to both me and my opponent. I don't want to fall onto my back, and I don't want my opponent flat on their back either, okay? So you can sort of see here, you can't really see my opponent, but we're both on our side with the shoulder blades off the mat, okay? Same ideas with a Darce choke. I do not have the same potential to finish the choke if my opponent falls to his back, okay? So as I roll forward, I'm looking to do it in a controlled manner so that I can dictate where we end up here, okay? So both shoulder blades off the mat. I have not changed my arm position, and you'll see here the only thing I do now is trap the leg, okay? Part of what makes this choke effective is that along with putting pressure on his chin and neck, as we'll see to help finish the choke, part of what makes it effective is that I'm also contorting his body into this almost like a shrimp position. And it makes it really hard to breathe because I'm also compressing the diaphragm along with his neck, okay? So I need this in order to make the choke more effective, but it also prevents an escape, okay? If my opponent were to free his leg here, I really don't have anything. I just have a grip on his neck, and he could easily scramble out of this. So in order to make sure that I really solidify this position, I do like a little hamstring curl to my butt with my top leg, okay? So my left leg is doing a hamstring curl to my butt to draw that leg nice and close to me. And my right leg is going to support it by triangling it. And the reason I triangle it is because I want to make sure that he can't escape here. If I just do one leg, it's possible that he can get out. But if I lock this up nice and tight with both legs, it's going to be incredibly difficult for him to escape now. In fact, I've had people not tap to it, but I can't say that I've had anybody fully escape the Japanese necktie unless they somehow get that leg free, and it's often very, very difficult, okay? So what I'm doing here is, and I say it's all in the hips, it's unlike a Darce choke and a lot of other chokes, it's not about the squeeze here. It's about where his head is in my chest and stomach, and it's about how his body is contorted. So as we go in a second, you'll see how the body is positioned and the neck is positioned to make this really difficult to breathe in. But the drive comes from the hips, okay? I'm just pulling my arms tight into my chest, and I'm really driving forward to apply pressure. You can sort of see that I like to use my bottom leg there. I believe that's my left leg, and I get a bit of drive off the mat with it too, just so I can really engage my hips into this, okay? So we'll see this from a different angle in a second here. So I release, we get the tap, and I'll just pause it here again where we say head and arm position, okay? So as you can see, his head is trapped on my chest and my stomach. I don't want his head or ear or anything in my armpit, and I don't want his head flat on the mat either. Those are both bad positions that will prevent you from applying a true choke, and it's much easier for your opponent to breathe, and you probably won't finish it, okay? But you can notice I still have the gable grip with my hand here. I haven't, gone arm to bicep like I would in a Darce. I'm keeping everything the same, okay? So as we go through here, I'm just going to pause it quickly as I walk back, and I pause it. You can see as I walk into him, before I even trap his leg, it's really crushing his chin to his chest. And what's really causing the choking pressure is the blade of my arm underneath his chin. So I'm just going to look back here for a sec. It's really the blade of my left arm, Okay, you can see it with the red tattoo there. It's the blade of that arm under his chin that really creates the pressure. So when I'm driving my hips forward, it's crushing his chin to his chest, and it's also crushing his chin or his over my arm. So it's like he's choking on a blade basically underneath his chin. Okay, so imagine it like, a rear naked choke. You get that forearm under the chin and you're squeezing on that trachea. Instead of using just a pure squeeze here, I'm using the hip pressure to drive his chin forward over my arm. So it's creating a real nasty choking pressure. And the other thing I'll say here too that's really important is that I'm trying to drive and transmit all the force from my hips forward. I'm not simply arching my back. Like, you'll notice that as I drive, my chest stays glued to his body. Like, you won't see my head come up and start to arch and slip away. I need to stay really tight to him and really just hinge at the hip, because that's what's going to cause his head to really get compressed in there. So it's not an extension, it's not like I'm arching backwards for an arm bar. I'm trying to really drive with my bottom left leg there, really just hinge at the hips and draw that leg to my butt and really hinge forward. And that's what's going to really create that meaningful choking pressure. So since we have this live footage here, I'll just walk you through sort of what I was thinking in competition here at this match at the Worlds last year. And this is just a way to show that there's some versatility in the way to get to that front headlock position. So as we start to watch the video here, you'll notice that I'm using this as a pass. So I'm looking to sort of stay light on my toes as I walk around. And I'll just pause it here because I'm effectively waiting for my opponent to come to the turtle position, right? Because in competition, people don't want to, give up an advantage or points. So he's not going to let me pass his guard, and I'm anticipating him coming into the turtle position. But I've already got my arms kind of in a good position here to attack. So I'll just run it forward, and you'll see that I wait for him to get up. And it happens really quickly, but you'll see that he gets his butt in the air and it exposes his legs. So I've laced up that 3/4 Nelson, and I'm just waiting for him to give me that opportunity to get his leg. I actually got it so deep that I initially caught both his legs, and I intentionally let one go because I've never actually really done it with two legs in, but I just thought I'm going to stick to what I know best. And so I trapped that leg, and we'll run it through here. You can see I'm really drawing it to the back. I'm triangling it and really driving off that bottom leg and arching into him, just really deep here. I'm not sure at this point if he'll tap, but he does. And luckily it went my way, and to my surprise, he actually went out. So that was kind of, I was in mid-celebration, and then I realized he was unconscious. So no disrespect to my opponent. He's a very tough guy, and but it was cool to see that, it worked that well, just to kind of give you some evidence to show that it's not intended to just be a pain submission or a neck crank. That's not why I try to use it. It's a valid choke that can put someone to sleep. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please subscribe, comment, like, share, and I hope you enjoy these breakdowns. If you do, leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.